All right, let's talk to Jaws. Ron Jaworski, of course, joins us every single Tuesday at this time, and there is an awful lot to unpack on what was and, of course, to discuss what could be the great Polish rifle, Ron Jaworski. Good morning, Jaws.
Joe and team, I hope everyone is recovering. It's been a rough couple of days, but we'll rebound.
Yeah, it's going to take some time.
Not yet. We have not rebounded yet.
Jaws, let me ask you our Twitter poll first, and then we'll break down the game and we'll get to some other issues. But we have a Twitter poll today brought to us by Armin Chevrolet. Armin has quality pre-owned vehicles from every budget. Make sure you see Armin's entire pre-owned inventory at arminchevy.com. Together, let's drive. Jaws, I'm curious what your answer is to this question and then why. Question is this: which emotion hits you the most with the end of the Eagles season? Jaws, for you, is it anger, frustration, or sadness, and why?
Probably frustration. I'm at a point in my life where I don't get angry too often, so it was frustrating because my expectations for the team were very high, as most people was coming into this season. But I just find it frustrating because, you know, as I've thought through this since the game ended, what makes it frustrating is we're 11-7.
Yeah.
I mean, that's mediocrity. It's for this football team, that's mediocrity. And it's for me hard to imagine that it's a mediocre football team. That's disappointing to me. We did not play up to our expectations.
Well, also, Jaws, I'll add this. They had a Super Bowl worthy defense, and it was to their credit they rebuilt that. That was amazing. And they had a Pro Bowl caliber offense on paper, and they couldn't do anything with that. I mean, to me, it's one of the bigger missed opportunities in my lifetime in Philly sports. And it wasn't like they stunk. They didn't. They were good. But, you know, they had a chance to repeat with both sides of the ball being very loaded, and they just flubbed it. That's astounding.
I agree. And by the way, you know, the defense did not play very well on Sunday. And that was probably the most surprising thing to me. I'm a huge Vic Fangio fan, and I can almost sense when they would show those shots of Vic up in the press box, the frustration he was having with his defense. And, you know, I've gotten through the tape, and some of the players, and I'm not going to call anybody out, did not play well. And, you know, you get in the playoffs, you got to bring your A game, and some of the guys did not bring their A game. So that is concerning to me. When you get in the playoffs, you're going to get your team's best shot, and there's no way in hell that depleted San Francisco 49ers offense put 23 points on the board. No way. Our defense did not. Now, we're focusing on the offense like we always do, the quarterback. Quarterback's always going to get too much credit, always going to get too much blame. It's just the nature of the beast. I've been, you know, around this league since 1973, and it's always that way. Too much credit when you win, and then too much ripping when you lose. It's just the way it's going to be. But I was more disappointed with the defense than anything.
And Jaws, when you watch the defense's struggles, how much of that is just really good play design and play calling by our opponent? Well,
there's no question. You knew Shanahan always comes in with a good game plan. I'm surprised he got beat by a gimmick double reverse pass. That just doesn't happen to a Vic Fangio defense. And, you know, when you get in the playoffs, it's one or two plays that it makes a difference, and that was one of the big plays of the game.
So there was a point during the season, Jaws, at the beginning of December, where we were informed that Nick Sirianni was going to take a more active role in the offense. How much better was the Eagles' offense after Sirianni started lending his expertise?
You know, I think probably publicly that statement was made, and I know it was made. But Nick has always had his hand in the offense. I mean, that's where he's cut his teeth in this league. That's what he knows. That's what he understands. So he's always been involved, and you know, I think Nick is one of those guys. He wants to be involved, and I think the head coach should be involved. Not necessarily as a play caller, but it's his offense, it's his design, it's what he knows. So I think he's always been involved with the offense.
Does Jalen want to run the ball less? Is that? Did I phrase that properly? Based on what you can surmise. Does Jalen want to run it less than the coaches want him to run it?
That I could answer, but I will point out what the tape showed me, that last drive. On first down, when he lost a yard, the first 21-yard line, he left the pocket prematurely.
Yes, he did.
He had receivers open. He left the pocket too soon.
Yes.
He lost a yard. That kind of set – now you go to 2nd and 11. That kind of set the table for what the 49ers could do and kind of play that umbrella coverage in the secondary. So that and on the second down, I think he left the pocket prematurely, had to throw it away. So I think he tried to force the run, but it just didn't work. I think teams now, for the most part, know how to defend Jalen Hurts. You hear the terms, the cage, the mush rush, all those things, and they're true. He's an outstanding runner, and you must contain him. So I think teams were very much aware that you get in critical times of the game. Jalen did like to run the football. Now, I'm not looking for him to run 10 times a game. I've said it. I think he needs to just maintain his mobility and use his legs. But on that particular drive, I thought he was looking too quick to leave the pocket because he did have receivers open down the field.
Yeah, I mean, Jaws, I differentiate between rolling out and running across the line of scrimmage. I mean, on second down when he rolled out and threw the ball away, that's the kind of thing we've seen a number of times from him.
But he had John Dotson open in the flat. There's no reason to run out of that pocket.
You don't have to,
out of the pocket and throw the ball away, so that puts you in 3rd and 11.
I'm with you. Brady was extremely critical of him in that moment. I thought rightfully so.
Yeah, Brady, they've got Smitty, and there's triple coverage on Smitty, and the ball sailed on him a little bit. He dropped his elbow, and the ball sailed a little bit.
Yep.
Was it catchable? Yeah, but it would have been a great catch. And on the final play of the game, basically, we got the same coverage from the Niners in that whole series. It was a too deep shell. The corners kind of rolled up. And we had opportunities with A.J. Brown. He was singled up on the outside, but he decided to try to stick with Dallas Goedert, who was having a terrific game, by the way. So I get that point.
So, Jaws, season-wise, not game per se, but season, to me, the biggest difference was they were not very good running the ball. And when they needed to be more effective passing the ball, they weren't, because that's just not what they effectively do. Do you think it is basically as simple as the O-line struggled, Saquon didn't have quite the same burst, and Jalen didn't run as much, and at the heart of it, that's the heart of what went wrong with the offense? Yes or no?
No, I think it's probably less than that. I think if there's if you say one thing rather than 3 things, it's the offensive line.
Yeah.
Did not play to the standard that we've come to expect from this offense. Like last year, it was a dominant offensive line. Saquon ran better. Running game, opened up the passing game. All those things are working. This year, it just seemed to be a struggle with the offensive line. There wasn't the continuity, too many negative plays. Teams knew that they can attack the line of scrimmage and get penetration, and that's the killer. The kryptonite of the running game is penetration. And defense were much better prepared for us this year because you have a whole offseason to prepare. But the loss of Lane is a huge thing. I pregame getting ready to do the show, and we finally got word that Lane was going to be out. It was kind of one of those blank moments, I know we all know how important Lane Johnson is to this offense, and when he went out, I immediately expressed some concern to my colleagues on the set. I was a little bit worried. When Lane goes out, you're talking about the anchor. One time was the best offensive line in football for a number of years. So that was a huge loss.
Charles, you talk about the negative plays. Penalties are a huge part of that. Why was this team so undisciplined this year?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe because this is the one thing you think back to last year, and obviously, Super Bowl season wipes out a lot of things. We had runs last year where we didn't play as great as we were, but we got hot at the right time and won the Super Bowl. So that's the bar. That's the bar we have in Philadelphia now. We expect greatness, and we should. We should demand greatness, and we should. And we didn't get it this year, but I'm still as frustrated as I am, like everybody else. I still think this team has a great future ahead of us.
So, Jaws, if they try to reinvent the offense, and I mean a new coordinator says we're going with different concepts, do you think Jalen would effectively run, for instance, West Coast concepts or whatever, other stuff? Do you think it would work or not?
No. It's hard. I'm going to speak personally on this because, I played 17 years. I played with a lot of different systems. It's like learning a new language when you try to go to a new system. John can speak as well. He played in others. It's hard. You get to a point where Jalen's been in this system now, 5 years. He knows exactly what to do every single play, what his responsibility is, what everyone's responsibility is. To change that and go to a new style of offense, I think it's a big change. It's not like, let's just start calling plays this way. Let's start running this way. Let's start doing the reads this way. It is hard to, number one, wipe out the old way of doing things, and number two, learning a new way of doing things. It is very, very, very difficult.
All right, Charles, I want to go back to something that was such a common theme this year, which was successful in one half and not in the other, whether it was first to second or inverse. It was crazy. Let's listen to Sirianni after the game on Sunday. He spoke to this, and then I want to ask you, Jaws, why this happened. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. Listen to Sirianni after the game Sunday.
Really had such a good first half, but stalled there in the second half.
Yeah, felt like that was kind of our story as the year progressed, and good, like you said, good first half. Didn't do a good enough job coaching. Didn't do a good enough job executing in the second half. In that third quarter, particularly, some penalties got us behind the sticks, and we had a hard time overcoming them.
Charles, I've seen a lot of sports, but never that. Like, I never saw where in a season the Sixers would consistently score 65 points in one half and 34 points in the other half.
Well, don't you think it's easy to explain they didn't adjust as well as the opponents did?
Well, sometimes it was the other way. Sometimes they would have a bad first half and a good second half.
I don't know. When we played good teams, it felt like the other team had, a renewed vigor coming out of the locker room and different plays.
I would agree with you, Joe. It's been the first half. It's been the second half. It started like in the second half we disappear.
Yeah. We've
disappeared in the first half in some games and came back the second half. So I would not attribute that to, our coach's inability to adjust. There are great coaches on this staff. I think every coach is great, and I think all the coaches in the NFL do a great job. I mean, the technology that they now have on the sidelines to make adaptations and adjustments is mind-boggling what they can do during the course of a game. So it's just something, maybe in the off season when I got some time, I'm going to sit down and go through these games again and see if there's a pattern or something I found. But right now, I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I don't either. It was mind-numbing. Jaws, I was surprised that you were as critical of Sirianni as you were on the exchange that he had with AJ on the sideline. I appreciated that Sirianni called him out, and I was surprised that you thought Sirianni was out of line there. If you could, tell us your mindset of why you think Sirianni mishandled it, because I want my coach yelling at anybody who's not doing the job in the moment. Tell me your thinking there.
Yeah, I kind of thought it was a distraction, and AJ, you don't need a confrontation, and everyone's amped up. I mean, everybody's amped up. We were amped up, the fans are amped up, the cheerleaders are amped up. It's the playoffs. Emotion is very, very high in the playoffs. Every play is the most important play of the game. And I thought at that time, when Nick got into it, AJ, I did not like the optic of it. I've been in the sidelines myself when there's been games where you have a distraction. You don't need distractions in games like that. I just thought Nick probably should. At this point, AJ had dropped a few balls already, so he's a time bomb just ticking to explode. And anytime you start getting with AJ Brown when he's not in the right mood, you're going to get a confrontation. And I just didn't think at that time of the game things weren't going well. I know Nick said he was yelling the guys to get off the field. I did not get that impression. So I was concerned that Nick kind of overheated on that situation.
Jaws, based on your experience, how often were things bright and shiny and happy between you and your receiving core, between you and your play caller? What was more customary, that you guys were at odds, or that you guys were getting along swimmingly? I know that a lot is now being made of the disgruntledness in that building, and my contention is that that's always there. I just wondered how you felt about that.
Well, I can speak more to the players I played with. Do you think here at Philadelphia I played with a Hall of Famer and Harold Carmichael, an NFL Hall of Famer, an Eagles Hall of Famer, and Mike Quick. And not only were they great players, they were great people. They were some of the hardest working people I ever worked with. So I knew a mistake's going to be made in the game. That is part of the business. But I knew that these guys prepared every single week, every single day, put the hours in studying the tape, put the hours in studying the game plan, studying the hours of working out and getting themselves ready. So quite honestly, I've never had that problem. Now, maybe I should just thank the type of players I worked with. Now, but I will admit, when coaching changes were made, I had gotten used to doing things one way, particularly after Dick Vermeil left. I knew that system like the back of my hand. Also, I'm starting to get new coordinators every year. And again, it's a change, and you have to be able to adapt, and it does take time, so that makes it much more difficult.